Hey, I'm Billy Stokes. This is my journey of building our business, but without compromising the relationships with people I love. Follow along while I document my growth. This is all BS. Okay, so I have a child in tow now, so the patting you hear in the background is me keeping him calm. Otherwise, you might hear a little bit of background noise from a 2-week-old. We'll just see how it goes. So, so by this point, not to say that the business is established by any stretch. Like, no business is going to be established in a couple months. But our brand is certainly out there, and we're getting good traction, and we're hitting the targets we want to hit in an incredibly short period of time, and good team synergy, and everyone knows what they're doing, and and we certainly thought that business was about getting the right people on board and empowering those people and stuff like that. And man, like, business is a lot more than that, obviously. Now we realize that, but in our naivety, it was just like hire the right people, get the right people, keep the right people, rather than actually build a business. So anyway, we're at this point where we've got really good trajectory. We like where we're headed. It's exciting. We're hitting milestones, and we realize that we've tapped into a gap that is in the market, and our assumptions were correct. And we're kind of going, okay, I think we can probably take a bit more market share here. And also, there's only so much you can do out of 10 square meters. Our hole in the wall location when we started was only 10 square meters, a real tiny spot. And so what ended up happening was we realized that, okay, we're not able to meet the entire demand that's there. Like, there's a lot more demand than we're able to meet. So we decided, well, we would start looking at for a way that we can offer food as well, because obviously with Beck's background in chefing, we're stupid not, and it's an opportunity cost for us, because a lot of people would, come get coffee from us and then go next door and get food at Deb and Ali's, and we had a great relationship with, well, we still do have a good relationship with Luge, but, being right next to each other was really great. So, and that's what we would do. We would often work to, people would come to get coffee from us and then get food next door. And we're like, well, that's an opportunity cost that we're not working on. So we started putting our feelers out. So this is, we started in October 2020. We moved house and everything else, and we bought our place in March or April or whatever. Oh no, it would have been March. By the time June came around, we were kind of going, okay, like, we're hitting good milestones, we're getting good traction. We certainly have tapped into a gap in the market, and we're not going to be able to meet the market demand where we are. So that's where we decided, well, let's start looking for something. And at the time, there was a shopping centre, which is up in Hannons, which is the northern part of WA, of Kalgoorlie, and there's a shopping centre called the Boulevard up there, and we kind of, like, one step removed, kind of know a few of the guys who bought it, and there was this one of the I guess players at the time used to own a few coffee shops, and so he came to us, and he was kind of like my point man. He came to us and said, hey, like, we went down and sussed out your location. We like your operation. It's really good. Like your product, like your workflow, like your brand, rah, rah, rah. We think it would be worthwhile if you were to go have a conversation with the cafe owner in the Boulevard. And the Boulevard, for those who've been in Kalgoorlie a long time, used to be this absolutely thriving, hustling, bustling, incredible little shopping centre, really thriving. And and at the time there was the cafe, there was like a baby shop, post office, and hairdressers. So, hairdressers is a kind of a destination business. Post office, people intentionally go to the post office for. Cafe, yeah, kind of, yep, I'd say so. But then Coles was just doing nothing. Coles owned the building and just did nothing with it. So not to say it sat derelict, but there was no investment in getting the right people in or anything like that. So what ended up happening was they came to us and said, hey, like, maybe if you're interested, you should go and talk to the owner about buying. So we went into that that conversation, and we the yeah, so funny. The price that he asked for was utterly extraordinary. I remember he told me the price. And the reason I'm not actually even mentioning the price is I can't remember if I signed an NDA on that or not. Otherwise, I would gladly tell you. It was exorbitant. And I was going, that seems ridiculous. And I said to him, I was like, mate, like, I'll be honest, I can't see it. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I can't see it. And so I said, get us the financials, get us the balance sheet, and let's see where the money is. Like, I want to see where the money is. So he ended up getting us the books and the balance sheet and the asset list and all these sorts of things. And I went over it, and I was going, I can't see it. I can't see it. So I came back to him at 1/5 the price. 1/5 of the price he was asking. And I was just like, mate, like, you don't have any systems, you don't have this, like, all of it just was just ridiculous. And I was just like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not gonna pay that price. We ended up settling on 1/5 of the price he asked. And I just want to say, I don't believe in lowballing people. I don't. I had a meeting with someone today about their business because they're selling, and we were, and having a look at their numbers, and she told me the figure that they wanted to sell at, and I told them, she said, oh, how do you feel about it? It's pricey, but it's a 30% return on cash. So I'm going, well, it's there's value there, and I don't believe in haggling. If a lawyer says to me, hey, it's 10 grand to do this work, and I go, well, my options are pay the money the lawyer wants to be paid or go to law school. So I would probably just pay the money. That's how I operate. I don't like haggling. I'm either going to tell you, hey, I'm sorry, that's outside my price range, or go use someone else's services that is within my price range, or I'll pay the money. I don't believe in haggling. In this instance, the business was not worth what he was asking, and even even when I did buy it, we paid him in cash from the proceeds of the house that we sold. When we did pay it, and I told the guy that we were dealing with who had the coffee experience, I was like, hey, like, yes, we're at this point, and like, we're in, we did the deal, and all these sorts of things, and and I told him, and here so funny, this is humbling. Here I'm thinking, like, yeah, like, I'm a negotiator, like, I'm a boss, like, yeah, I did it. And then he was just like, I told him the price we paid, and he was just like, he's like, yeah, he said, I think that's probably still a little bit too much. And I was like, oh. He's this person who's like, he's pretty good business acumen, like, he knows what he's doing. And and that kind of took my wind out of my sails a bit. I was like, shit. So yeah, so that was funny. But so we paid in cash, and it was still relatively significant, all things considered, it was still pretty significant. First thing we did was we went in there and we just tidied everything up. Like, by this time, we had actually been in negotiations with one of Beck's friends, is an incredible chef, absolutely phenomenal chef. And he was moving back to town, so I jumped on it. As soon as I got whiff that he was coming back to town, I was like, hey, mate, here's the deal, here's the situation. And the image that was kind of painted about what was going to be happening with its centre was pretty grand, and my big thing is that I just go, with respect to value, is that I go, like, I want to create value. I don't just want to make business. Like, I want to create value. And in my mind, that entire area of town was wildly underserved. Just, there was nothing that, the residents in that area of town could actually go and enjoy, good quality food, atmosphere, all these sorts of things. And I was like, I want to pull together an incredible team to be able to do this really, really, really well. And we did. we got this great, like, this chef, like, his name's Zach Hawke. God, like, man, he is a phenomenal chef. He is, people follow his career. Yeah, I remember when he was working at Relish, and Relish is another cafe in town before they moved, and people still talk about the bacon that he made. He made homemade, or house made, this bacon, and it was thick cut, really fat, thick cut, and there was just, everybody would go there for it, and wherever he is an absolute asset everywhere he goes. So I said to him, I was like, hey man, listen, like, oh, here's a salary I'm thinking. Here's kind of what we're like using some of the profit from the business, the cash flow from the business to kind of prop this up while it was getting going. From the hole in the wall, this is. Here's what we're thinking. Here's the salary. I was like, and once we actually get profitable and stuff, and this is God honest truth, is I'd like to cut him in on the profit. Unfortunately, we didn't get to the point where we were able to do that, and we'll get to that part of the story in a second. So we are, here we are, where we've kind of got this team together. We buy it, and then we just did some basic things. Moved a few things around, got a new coffee machine, pushed a few things into place, created the workflow that we knew was going to work. Put a few food bits in place. And then just updated the atmosphere and it was great. Like that. I remember so many people came to us and just said like, man, I feel like I'm in Perth. I feel like I'm in Melbourne. And, the food was incredible. The coffee was great. And all these things where, and unfortunately, and again, we just didn't know how to manage a team, and we didn't know how to manage people. And I say that to say that that's still a skill I'm learning. It's not like I've nailed it, but God, if I knew what I know now, it would be a totally different story. So we took over, and we were we were running, and things were headed in the right direction. I was still managing, because by this point Beck was expecting our third kid, right? So it's just crazy. So we had a new business. Beck was pregnant again. We just bought this other cafe, and just there just wasn't the traction. I think initially, there were times, man, I remember, like, it was like an hour and a half wait, like 2 hour long wait sometimes. And this is no reflection on Zach's competency, none whatsoever. It's just the fact that, when there's so much demand, you need more help in the kitchen. And or just things would go missing, like orders would go missing, and just all this sort of crap, just like, really elementary stuff. And I know it's all part of the teething issue thing, and it's the first time we'd really like launched something new and all this sort of stuff. But and we were headed on a good trajectory, but I think we had a pretty good team. And again, I don't want to be speaking out of school here, so I'm very conscious of how I phrase what I say. I think that if we had our time over, we would have structured the team differently. And I look back now and I think, okay, well, that was part of the issue, not the whole issue. If in fact, I would say that might be maybe like 15 to 20% of the problem. Not even, even what I know now about, like, leading people and empowering people and building systems that work and that sort of stuff, is that had I known then what I know now, I am confident we would still have that cafe and it would be thriving. That's my belief. We don't really know for sure, but it's a good belief. I'm running it. So anyway, we so things, I think, my biggest mistake that I made, there's a great book called E-Myth Revisited. Highly recommend it for anyone, and it's all about business systemization and structure and all these sorts of things. And when I think around, the biggest mistake I made was that we were managing by way of abdication, not managing by way of systemization. And what I did was, I thought the right way to do this is, yeah, there's a gap in the market. I'm confident we can serve that community really well, and we did. I'm sure that I can pull the right team together. So what I did was I pulled everybody into place, gave them loosely the parameters that they operated within, gave them the resources for them to be able to do their jobs really well, and left them to their own devices. And that part was the part that I really buggered up with, was realizing, I look back in hindsight, and maybe in hindsight later down the track when I know more, there'll be more realizations. But the biggest mistake I believe that I made back then was that I managed that business by way of abdication, not by way of actually building the business. And this goes back to what I was saying in one of the other talks, or maybe earlier, was that it's like you have to you, you're building a business, not just getting people in place. And people are you need to have a team, right? You need to have a team of people. So people are critical, absolutely. There needs to be great leadership and people skills involved in any sort of successful business, I believe. But that's not it. And because if it was it, then I mean everything is people anyway. Everything's psychology. So then you wouldn't need systems. And that's kind of what I didn't really appreciate at the time, was the importance and the value of systems and how to actually build a good system. All these sorts of things. So, yeah. So anyway, so what I did was I'll be like, hey, you guys, these are the parameters. Like make the decisions. Yeah, yeah, sure. You want to buy that? Let's buy that. Okay, sure. Yeah, it sounds like a good decision. Let's do it. Buy. Let's bang, 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 bang. So we were there for just under 12 months, if I remember correctly, and I'll have to fact check that, but I think it was about 12 months. And and we just weren't. I remember toward the end there was conversations where it would, like, dude, we would like make like a couple $100 in the day, and my wage bill would be like $500, $600, $700 more, probably more. I can't remember. So like just for us to like turn the key and turn the lights on and have people clock on, it was just like we weren't making the money we needed to make, and there was a correlation between obviously foot traffic and people. And so long story short, we ended up and again, I don't want to be speaking out of school. We went to the guys that own the premises and own the building, and we were like, hey guys, like we're not making money. Like we've been here for 12 months. We've tipped all this stuff in. You guys are telling us you love what we're doing. We're conscious these areas we need to improve and all these sorts of things, but it's not working. And also the vision that was kind of told to us it's not a thing. And unfortunately, the point man that we were speaking with wasn't in the picture anymore, and he's a good salesman. Let's just say that. He's very charismatic, knows how to communicate a vision and get people excited to take action on that. Perhaps the most diplomatic way to say this was that the accuracy of the vision could be very, very easily questioned. And in my trust and naivety, I didn't vet the information that he was telling us about how things were going to go with the center. I didn't vet that with the other owners and say, hey, like, this is what I'm hearing. Is that the thing? I think second to that, I probably would have made I would have put forward some clauses to say, conditional on these things happening. Well, this is our involvement, just so that everybody had some skin in the game, because obviously, there's a level of skin in the game that the owners have because they bought the bloody building. But I mean, we certainly had skin in the game. Like, I used the money that we sold our house with to buy the cafe, and then spent a shitload more money in there again. And, and we were getting to the point that we were making money toward the end of it. But still, like, we were down on the balance sheet, we were down 90 grand. So, yeah, lessons. lots of lessons. So we ended up going to them and just saying, hey, like, we can't keep doing this, and at the time, like Beck's out of the equation. She's at home looking after the kid kids, and she's got another one coming, and I'm managing the hole in the wall, the coffee shop, and then going and covering shifts up there, and we're moving people in and around, and all of these sorts of things. And it's just like it was so chaotic. We just didn't have any structure and systems to be able to actually run the businesses properly, and it was just madness, and just yeah. And it's funny because I think that's very reflective of my internal state at the time. Was I was just it was internal chaos, which actually reminds me that's something that I needed to touch on earlier. How much longer have we got on this? 20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll park it there. Because one of the things that really around the business growth, because one of the I think the most pivotal things that happened in our entire business journey was okay. So we started in October, and this is just reflecting on the chaos sides of things, right? I mean, Beck and I we moved to Melbourne when we got married because I wanted to get away from the chaos of my family situation at the time. And I was really young, like I was in my late teens when we got married. So we shot off to Melbourne and we did our thing over there, and and part of it was just getting rid of the chaos. But the thing is, like, you're so used to that it's normal. So all you do is you just take it with you. It doesn't stay behind. You just take the chaos with you, thinking that you're running away from it. All right. And I think that it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the wrong decision. I think that is the right decision. Sometimes you just need to get out and breathe. But understanding that you have to also then be intentional about addressing that and dealing with that rather than just running away from it and hoping it goes away, because it doesn't. It just doesn't. So, so then as you can tell, there's a pattern of chaos, right? So our so I started this job, and then I jumped to carpentry and gave my cousin a hand for a bit, and then we bought this house and we're renovating the house, and then we sold the house, and then we were moving into our friend's place, and we started a business, and we had another kid, and then we bought our new place and we're renovating that and running the business, and we bought a cafe, and it's chaos. It is chaos. It is totally chaotic, and it is 100% reflective of what was happening internally in our lives. And I remember, so we started end of October, and I remember it was December 31st, New Year's Eve, and we're out of my in-laws' place, we're swimming, and I just started becoming conscious of, aware, let's say that, aware of my own behaviors. Like I would procrastinate and just, and here's this thing, like, okay, here's this dream that we've had, and we've borrowed these people's money, and we've been really proactive, and so this is before the cafe. This is like 3 months after we launched, so end of December, and it's just it's so we're doing this thing, but then it's just like all this drive goes, and and I remember saying to Beck, I was like, if I if I was watching my friend doing what I'm doing, if I was observing someone doing what I'm doing, I would call that self-sabotage. But obviously, I'm not going to say that about myself. So I was just going, I know I need to deal with this, because what's going to happen is I'm either going to lose the business, which we've borrowed money, and that not okay, especially from people we know. So either we're going to lose the business, or I'm going to lose my wife. And we obviously, and our marriage will turn to shit. And whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. That was the belief that I had, and it was enough for me to take action. And so that's what happened, was that I reached out to, I spoke to my auntie. She's a psychologist, and I just said, hey, like, I need a hand. And she's like, conflict of interest. No way. I know your background. I was like, okay, fair. So then I reached out to a friend of ours, a family friend of ours who I'm not wildly well acquainted with, but he knows a bit of our family background, and rah rah. Hey mate, this sort of thing. Conflict of interest. I was like, okay. Then and then I reached out. There's a psychologist in town, and I reached out to her, or her administrator anyway. reached out to her. Sorry, we're booked up for 6 months. I was like, God, like, and everywhere I was looking, I just, roadblock, 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 roadblock. And I was conscious of what I was doing, and I just couldn't, like, it was just like I had my foot on the gas and my foot on the brake at the same time, and I just could, like, I was just burning out, and just getting nowhere. And I know that it was self-sabotage, but it was almost like subconscious self-sabotage. So then I decided to, well, actually, no. So this guy that I'd started, he's still, I would say, like, he's someone that I look up to in a business capacity, and he's becoming a good friend of ours. And I saw that he shared this post on Facebook, and he said, the guy's name's Nero, this coach. He said, shout out Nero, like, thanks. Obviously not those words, but, just gave him a good plug. It's been really great. And I saw this post, and I clicked on this guy's profile, and I had a look, and the website was absolutely terrible. And I just could, like, it just didn't look anything amazing. And I was going, you know what, for what it's worth, I'm just going to give it a punt. It just, every other door was closing, and I felt like, I remember saying to Becca, I feel like I'm going insane. Like, I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I just want to try and solve it, and I can't. And it's just like, I'm just going crazy. And it just felt like my mind was just running. Sorry. My mind was just running non-stop, and I couldn't stop it. Anyway, so I came across this guy, and I booked in a time. I said, hey, I'm a good friend of, I'm a friend of Lindsay, and, and so he was like, oh, cool, like, I really respect Lindsay, and, so ended up having this call with him, and my God, dude, I remember. Oh, it's crazy. I got on the phone to him, and I was just like, I was like, yeah, good chat, yeah, chat. And then it was like, so what do you actually want to do? Morph, just, man, I vomited on this guy, and I was like crying, and there was like snot and shit, and it was just crazy. Like, just dumped all my trauma and grief on this poor bloke. That was his gig, though. That's where that man thrived, like, or thrives, and he was just like, hey, mate, like, I want you to do this program. We're starting in 2 weeks. I was like, oh, sure. And I think, oh God, I can't remember how much it was. I think it was going to be like 10 grand to do the program, and then some one-on-one, sessions with him either side. So I paid the money. Best money I've ever spent in my entire life, without question. Absolutely without question. He is a master at the art of asking questions. Man, I realize now, knowing how to ask good questions has got to be the most powerful skill anyone can have. And this is the reason why. You think answers drive the conversation? The questions are in the steering wheel. That the questions are the steering wheel. Like, questions steer conversation. Questions provide illumination as well. Questions are everything. If you're not good at asking questions, it's a skill that needs to be learned for sure. And this guy is he's a king of questions. So, yeah, so he was able to just unpick this whole thing going on in the back of my mind. Hey, so I think the program started in March or April from memory. Actually, I might even be able to find out when. Here we go. So this was February, and then March is when we started. So there you go. So that's when we really started, and that's when I really started to unpack myself, understand who I was, what I was about, the things that just kept, and just like unpacking my own beliefs and starting to make sense. Jordan Peterson was a great start, because he kind of helps you, especially as a man, helps you to make sense of where you fit in the world with respect to, generally speaking, a man, rah, rah, rah. Whereas Nero was so impactful with respect to being able to go, this is exactly what's going on inside your life, based on your history, based on your current thing, based on how you perceive things, and started really teaching me the tools to be able to navigate that and just put things in their rightful place. yeah, and it was really, really, really valuable. Um, so by the time the cafe came, we're like, that didn't happen overnight. I'm actually still working with him, so we're 3 years in, and I catch up with him once a fortnight, and we unpick the stuff, and there's always new stuff coming up as the business grows. We're always the cap to our own. We're always our own ceiling, right? We are our glass ceiling, and so as our business grows, there's always new stuff that comes up. Even when we had this is my son Sterling. That feels funny to say. Even that, right? The fact that feels funny to say, it feels foreign. That's something new, and there's a level of navigating that healthily. And yeah, anyway, so as the business grows, so we'd only really just started this whole process, and for like 3 months, man, it was a 3 month intensive on just really unpacking everything in my head, and absolutely brilliant. So that whole process was finishing as we were buying the cafe. I did a few more sessions with him one-on-one, and then I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to park that for a bit. Like, thanks, mate, you helped me fix myself. Like, now I'm good to go. No. Sorry, but that was not even the tip of the iceberg. Oh, God. So here I was thinking I was all good. Got into the cafe, all the chaos of everything else like that. And, yeah, and unfortunately the chickens came home to roost again, because you just default to your own ways unless you know what you're doing going forward, hey? Yeah, so that's where we were. So by that point, I really started kind of fixing my own shit in my life. I was still managing working and managing the hole in the wall. And there were some days where it'd just be like, I'd get a call from the guys at the cafe, and they'd be like, hey, we need help right now. I'd be like, shit. I have to leave those guys, get through the rush with them, run up there, get through that rush, and just playing whack-a-mole, man. It was not healthy. It was not a good setup. So yeah, so there we were. That's kind of where we were. We bought this cafe. Things were headed on a decent trajectory, and for that whole 12 months, it was just non-stop. Yeah, so we kind of got that established, and we had a pretty good team, and the guys are doing well, and all these sorts of things, but we just didn't know how to manage. Well, we did, but we managed in an unhealthy way. So yeah, so that is the end of that part of the story.